There's a different dynamic in play, unfortunately, with Pikey injured. I think it was an off-track incident too. So he's not riding tomorrow, and that's our obvious starting point with Western Empire. You're doing the work, Vince, before I've got to you and you open up your early edition race speed profile with Western Empire on top. Is this just the case of, if this source is right, he should win?
Racing now in the gold rush.
But right now, Western Empire has got this entire field covered just on what it's been doing this campaign. So I just sit back here. If we go to the top, then it's probably got a 1, 2, 3 length advantage. And Ralphie, if it was drawn in the middle, I'll just go all in as much as I can put on, like standout betting proposition. That's where I actually feel.
Villa Road hits the front. They went to the 300 from Comfort Me. Behind them, Hodshead picking his way through. Zip Away getting up on the inside. Western Empire, he's launching a mighty run on the outside. Western Empire surges to the lead, draws away. Western Empire takes out the Gold Rush.
And now on PG Podcast Network, it's time for the Year-Round Carnival with Vince Accardi and your host, Racetrack Ralphie.
G'day, thanks for getting our review edition Year-Round Carnival. Bit of the Cat Empire work there as Western Empire did it. And Vince, it's a tough couple of weeks there in Perth, but nice to finish off our little package there with a very good day. Billy Egan did the job for us perfectly.
Yeah, Ralphie, it has been a really difficult 4 weeks with a bit of zigging and zagging and not like finishing up on the right side of the ledger, but that one really made a big difference because I just couldn't believe the price in the end. I mean, it was stupid money that they gave for that horse. Seriously.
Did you hold your line?
I ended up going 2x8, so I was very, very solid. I didn't go all the way in 2x10, which is an A grade. I stuck with a B, but geez, he did a good job. Egan, watching the way he was riding it, first few hundred metres ago, you could see where he sat probably a pair or two back further than what I would have loved, but I got what he was trying to do. And then when he got in that rhythm, he understood exactly where to go. And I knew when he was coming to us, we've got the money, man.
One of our great supporters, Darren, rode Hi Ralphie. I think Billy done a Pikey as a great tribute to Billy Egan's ride on the Western Empire. He rode it as well as Pikey this carnival arguably even better, having the horse off the rails with cover, getting into the lanes to unleash his punishing sprint, gave the horse the ability to build a sustained run from the turn and benefit from the lanes. Would love to hear Vince's thoughts on this.
Yeah, well, that's exactly what happened, wasn't it, Ralphie? Exactly that. And I'm not really... Well, I do. I mean, what did we say about Super Smink? Just out of curiosity, I just can't remember what we said about it on Friday, but we weren't that bullish on it.
Not really, because and it's always hard looking at a race with the short history. But
yep,
one theme that we've had, probably since Peter Volante's changes to carnivals, is that so often trainers just put horses in races because they have to, because the money's just too inviting not to, but 1,800 back to 1,400 is not going to give you that sharpness in the legs compared to, let's say, Western Empire, who was building to 1,400.
Yeah, and Super Smink hadn't delivered the numbers, Ralphie.
Yeah.
In terms of like overall performance when comparing it to Western Empire. No surprise of it, Magnificent Andy being right there in the finish. I thought Ropeman was huge, but let's have a look at the pace, Ralphie. +7 early. I couldn't believe it. No mucking around, nowhere to hide. So it did make it tough, like being hard on speed, to be able to hold for sure, right? I mean, Villa Road was going 6.5 above. Probably the next closest horse after that was Comfort Me, +4.9. So all the horses you expect to be up there, but they put that extra level of energy in. Western Empire, where were you? 1.6 above. Almost golden spot, right? Yep. 5.4 off the lead. Maybe he couldn't have gotten a length closer, but it just would have meant victory would have been bigger, Ralphie. Mid-race, not really too much of a dip between the 8 and the 4, half a length, and then everything for the last 400. Was it +4.8? Fantastic.
So there's many fundamentals here we can look at from this race. One is that pace. I like you look at the beaten jockeys because they haven't got time to sort of have a real think about what they want to say. And Luke Curry was just put on the table. He said the problem was they put blinkers on this horse. This is on Vela Road,
Yes.
and he just overdid it. Now, what that happens then, Vince, is a horse like Red Cam Man. I think the jockey there said, I think he was hinting at retirement for that horse. It was Jordan Turner. So he's been a grand old sprinter, but he goes fast anyway. But when you got blinkers on a horse that goes fast anyway in Vela Road and he can't settle, that creates that sort of vacuum, doesn't it?
It does, Ralphie. Absolutely.
In a big field, everyone else still has to get behind it and go too fast.
Yeah, and maybe this is also the energy of the big field, wasn't it, Ralphie? Because everyone's trying to jostle for a position. You have to slot in somewhere. Well, you knew some horses were just going to end up probably getting caught, unfortunately. And like always, there's only so much you can own up the front in terms of your positions, and it was lethal. That pace was hot, like a really, really tough speed. And probably the place where he didn't want to be in the end, overreaching.
No doubt. So Western Empire, and again, I'm trying to look at the reason why. Always ask a reason why with the market. You can disagree with it, and sometimes you can get a good result, like you did, Vince. But why did the horse drift? Well, Billy Egan first time, so I suppose the robots have got no data on him over in Perth, and that was his first ever ride in Perth. I'm sure he said that. And then secondly, the so-called negative of the wide barrier. Well, talk us through the difference of the wide barrier for Western Empire compared to the so-called benefit of a in barrier for Super Smink, because look at those micro splits there. Super Smink, no momentum, and it was obviously anyway. But the micro splits really confirm how Super Smink from the 400 200 was losing ground. Western Empire, full momentum.
Yeah, and that's a critical point. Absolutely. Well, first of all, on the early speed, plus 2.2 versus 1.6, you would have to say that Super Smink is almost in the golden position in terms of how far off the leader, energy conserving, and I would say definitely in a better position than Western Empire through that first 600 metres. In the mid-race, when you look at what's taken place between the 8 and the 4, again, both horses are still like in the perfect spot. I mean, Super Smink's gone 2.2 above to 1.2 above. That's down one length in terms of transition between the two splits, and Western Empire 1.6 to 1.1. So there's nothing really between it in terms. No one's overextended. They're in a great spot. But then you're right, Ralphie. Super Smink goes from 0.2 above to 1.4 below, so loses 1.6 lengths of energy, and then rebounds last 200 with a plus 3.8, arguably finished slightly stronger than Western Empire. So, maybe, Ralphie, yep.
And after all, Western Empire has delivered his extraordinary figures of his younger days, but he's 2.8 solid. But Super Smink, it wouldn't be surprised if she could produce a 2.8, but under a race shape where she's not in traffic.
Well, true, Ralphie. And then there's always this situation. Perhaps if you run a bit more smoothly through the line, how much more would you really gain? Would you have gotten that extra 1.7 lengths, let's say, from an MPS point of view, to make the difference? Well, you could probably put a case up that it'd definitely get a length.
Yep.
So the margin, I would say, stays the same. And then you've also got to ask, even with Western Empire, when you look at what Billy Egan did, he sort of went for it at the top. You could see that really, and that I reckon that's what solidified his victory.
Yeah, foot to the floor, and really, I think part of the reason why you got a good price too. His unplaced run in the winner bottom leading in, but gee, there was some logic to forgiving the run, and you can always. By the way, if you're listening to this, you can always listen. We put everything up unedited every week, so they're on the weeks that we didn't get it right. They're there too, but we got it right Saturday. But that 9th, I think that was part of the reason why it got the big drift. But again, what we're saying that the perfect lead-in run for that horse was 1100 to 1200, but just 14 days, there wasn't a lot of room to really build his speed, and he had traffic as well.
Absolutely, Ralph. It's been pretty crazy. I feel that when we just look back at some of these horses that had solid figures over the last 4 weeks, one, we had a week where the track was a little bit I felt like definitely had issues in the home straight. I really also felt that I was like with Pikey on a lot of horses. I don't believe he performed anywhere near as good as what he generally is capable of. Like he was like in and out in terms of decision making, where we would have horses. And personally, we said it on Saturday morning, didn't we? Because I asked you what was your thoughts on Billy Egan, right?
Yep.
And you said, yeah, I got no problems with it. Here, right? He's actually very good with horses that are sitting sort of further back. This is exactly what you said. And I thought, okay, well, realistically, the way things are going, probably better off with him than Pikey. Because I just saw the mistakes Pikey had made, Ralphie.
Yeah, so in the end, you get a very good price, and just sticking to your guns. It was a good result there. Just a couple more to touch on. The race obviously dominated the card. Bopping Blue though in race 2, this horse is airborne for the new stable this time in, and his race fitness proved the difference in being able to hold the lead from final speed, and final speed gas right out. But Bopping Blue's, I think it'll be winning more sprint races, won't it?
Ralphie, that was such a tough effort by that horse. Firstly, you're 0.9 above benchmark through the first 200 metres. You've increased your pace to plus 2.8 between the 8 and the 4. And you could see all out last 200 metres, it dramatically dropped through the big surge the horse had made first 800 metres. That was a big run. Plus 1.1. Couldn't pin it any lower than that, Ralphie. Top 5 on the up.
Nice. The Boss Lady in race 4, well, it looked a pretty competitive race on paper, but with a couple of nice horses leading in. Rock and Rupert, you didn't have any issues at 1400, but talk about every race is different. The Gold Rush was also 1400 at Ascot. Here, the lead speed, 11 lengths slower.
Can you believe it? 5.7 lengths below benchmark, first section. I can't believe it. And then, of course, really, Rock and Rupert and the Boss Lady, two big advantages they would get if there was not a lot of speed. I mean, Rock and Rupert's travelling 10.4 below. The Boss Lady, 12.7 below. But I look at that last 400, the Boss Lady, that was massive, 8.5 last 400. That just also confirms how much speed was in that home straight. It was definitely quick, Ralphie.
So if any of these back up next week, it probably a very nice setup.
Well, they're not going to be crying.
Not at all. Race 5, Profit and Power was a good watch. Vincent, you asked me about this Luke Campbell. I didn't have a lot of depth to it, but tell you what, the kid's ridden this masterfully because he just let that leader go. He's going fast enough on Profit and Power, so he just said, "Lone leader, you can do your thing, I'll do mine."
It's a tough thing to do because, I mean, the leader's going 6.4 above, Ralphie, and you've got to ask yourself the question, if you were the rider, go, well, is it okay to be that far away?
Yes.
He actually just rode the horse, didn't he? +1. Beautiful.
Yep.
And then in the move, this is usually where a lot of them get it wrong. You could easily overextend in the middle, but it looked like he got like the maximum without taxing it to the nth degree and having a massive fall off over the last 400. He's gone 3.1 above. And then when I look at the whole field, the average, if I just go all the way down to say Red Dwarf, it's 2.9. So he blended him perfectly. Yes, a little bit weak over the last 400 metres, like all out, but entitled to.
So and we'll finish with the Starstruck Classic Race 7 on the card. I was looking at the beaten jockey service that they put up, and a few who weren't on pace were a bit frustrated by the lack of pace. How slow were they going?
Oh, you're joking, aren't you, Ralph? This is slower than barrier trial. -18.8. What the hell happened there? They just said, no, we're happy to go that. We're in a trial.
Yep, no doubt.
Because the last 400 franks it. I mean, you got horses running. I mean, Miss Sky High's gone +10.7 last 400, Ralphie. Bon Joy's gone 9.6 above. It's the old story, Ralphie. If you're absolutely doing nothing for the first half of the race, what are you going to expect? Massive finish if you've got it.
So Miss Sky High, wouldn't mind if they back this up. I know we've finished our Perth Carnival service, but wow, that's a fair spread, isn't it?
It is, and this is what happens. Like, unfortunately, on the technicals, you feel like, well, okay, well, I'm only like less than 5 lengths from the leader. That should be a winning position, but you know the old story, Ralphie, when you go super slow, you have to be as close as possible to lead. So I actually thought Bonjoy did really good to give it 2 lengths head start and then still have enough capability to be able to outsprint on the Queen, which I thought was looked home.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, let's have a look at Caulfield Heath. As an overview, what are you learning from this track? Obviously, it's only been very lightly raced. What, you got 32 records for race 1, for instance, and so forth. So what are you learning from Caulfield Heath?
What am I learning?
We're going to go there Boxing Day again.
Yeah, probably nothing at this stage, Ralphie.
I
sort of get a feel that, you know, lanes are going to be the lanes. This is starting to shape up when a few horses seem to get a bit wider. But, yeah, it's way too early, Ralph. We just probably maybe you'll have to ask me that question in a year's time.
Yeah, exactly. So, but as always, look for the best jockeys to work it out. And Craig Williams, who walks tracks and everything else like that, just the 4 winners for him. So, nice little start there. I do. For those who missed it, John Kanga, the new chairman of MRC, said they won't be racing there on Saturdays in the future under his watch. So,
Really?
Yep. He said it's not a Saturday venue. He wasn't. Part of the reason he got appointed, he didn't think they should have built that new track. So he's thinking midweek venue only. So,
well, that makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Absolutely.
It should be the secondary.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the old regime wanted to shut Sandown, and he's got in with an open Sandown platform. So, hence that'll be the case going forward. Just touch on a few here. Silla Cap won easily, but looks like not much under the bonnet there in race 1.
Well, 4.2 lengths below benchmark first section. It's a nice sort of a head start to the eventual leader, who's, you know, ended up finishing last, plus 1.6. So you're probably on the edge, Ralphie, as far as where you want it to be. I thought the move in the mid-race was reasonable, going 0.8 above, about a 5-length squeeze. Overall, last 400 metres, pretty decent. You know, small field, Ralphie. The tension just wasn't there, I don't feel, in the race, and the quality. Yeah, I'd have to question it a bit, minus 3.7, Ralph.
Yeah. So let's have a look at the 2-year-old, which is going to the Magic Millions. Invincible Woman, 10th best of the day. So I suppose it's always a good sign if a 2-year-old can, at this time of year, can get into the top 10.
I thought this run was good, Ralphie. 2.1 lengths below benchmark, first 300 metres. That sort of also showed that the horse has got a level of capability in terms of just being able to relax in a short course race. The move in the mid-race, there was energy there at 1.8 length. Not that you're going to get crazy over it, right? But the reality is any surge for a 2-year-old usually has a depletion to their last 200, 400 metres. And in this case, this horse has sort of gone with a plus 1.6. I thought it was pretty decent. And then I sort of looked at how the horse really looked from an overall sustained speed, 800 metres. And in the top bracket of the group, really like 34th best. Last 1,000 metres, another little indicator. 14th best of the whole meeting. Pretty much justifies that top 10 positioning, because this is a softer card overall, with the exception of one race.
Yeah.
But the reality is, you then look at where the second horse was in this race here, race 5, ranked 44. It just means that the only horse to consider is the winner.
In race 6, Miss Altair went in with sort of like a bit of a no-ceiling profile. I'm interested in your thoughts on what we've got from Yes Lulu, because it seemed like a very good effort to be able to run down Miss Altair, given what type of pace Craig Williams got away with up front.
Well, it didn't go over the top, 3.3 lengths below benchmark, but you're right, Ralphie. Yes, Lulu, 6.2 below in the golden position, tracking 3 lengths off it. Even in the move in the mid-race, even though they both put a bit of a surge in, they weren't that strong, but the last 400 was what Yes Lulu just smashed the competition with the last 400. And mind you, you can't sort of sit there and feel that all the others didn't have their chance of what I consider to be very even first 2 splits.
There was a little bit of quality late in the day. Grand Larceny, how's it tracking? So it's brought a best of the day performance here. It's its first prep as a gelding, and the Team Hawks mantra is always to just slow build with their horses. So how do you think it's going along? in race 8?
I don't really want to say a lot on that, other than it is a little bit of a reflection on the day.
Yep.
0.1 above, and then I look at the breakdown. It was in many ways it was only marginally better than the 2-year-old Ralphie. So that just probably, well, we can look at it two ways. It just either means how good's the 2-year-old or how ordinary was the best on the day.
Answer's probably somewhere in the middle. Race 9, Marble Arch, Rock Hard Fit. I didn't like the ride. I personally didn't like the ride on Warney on the numbers. Not too bad, but chasing Buffalo River for no reason. I think they've got the horse over racing, but ultimately, I suppose when the foot went down, there wasn't a lot there for Warney.
No, well, this is it, Ralphie. Like, again, let's look at it. Buffalo River, 2.7 lengths below benchmark first. I don't know if he can go that much slower.
Yeah.
And then Warney, 4.2 below. Really, that's a golden spot. That definitely, if you were on that horse, that's where you want it to be, on that pace.
Yep.
Right. And then Marble Arch, 7.5. I reckon borderline a touch too far back. Probably should have been a bit closer to where Warney was. I reckon if it was, this horse wins by a lot more. It was interesting. We were doing some work on that race on the Friday, and Marble Arch looked a real, genuine winning threat for this race, just the way the setup was going to be. And then you have a look at the breakdown, 7.5 lengths below benchmark first section. Like I said, I just thought it was just that touch too far back. The mid-race move was excellent because the squeeze was virtually 8 lengths, but not over the top. It wasn't like another 2 or 3. And then I can't believe that was the only horse that could break benchmark last 400. It doesn't say a lot for the others, Ralphie.
Not at all. Now, the last race, this was fascinating to me, and because I'm a fastidious market watcher, as you know, This is one of the biggest goes I've seen on a Saturday with Inhibitions. And once again, we spoke about with Super Smink and Western Empire in a big race. Well, this isn't a big race, but it was the same dynamic. Sue's Sensation, so-called advantage of an inside barrier, 3 back the fence. Inhibitions, Craig Williams, wide barrier in the perfect position.
Yeah. Again, this was another race. Did some work with one of the guys from New Zealand, and we were pretty keen on this Zoo Sensation. It was going to run huge. And then I just look at the setup of the race. Inhibitions, 3.3 lengths below benchmark. Zoo Sensation, 3.9.
Now, is that slow for, sorry to butt in, but is that slow for Zoo Sensation? I thought it's got the speed to be behind the leader. Instead, it was 3 back the fence and buried, which the market seemed to be confident that that's what would happen.
Yeah, and that, unfortunately, you're right, Ralph. I felt that turned into a negative.
Yep.
It could have easily have been a lot closer. It might have made a big difference in the outcome, in my view. I mean, because that pace up front, plus 1.7, it's not like, it wasn't like ridiculous speed. It was just a good, solid pace for 1,200. And realistically, even Inhibitions probably could have been a little bit closer. But ultimately, I felt what won and lost the race was what happened in the mid-race. Again, no massive surge, Ralphie. If you look at the line, with the exception of one horse, all the horses have pretty much gone 2.5 to 3.5 range above the benchmark in the mid-race split. But lastly, I'm looking at the last 400 metres, and only the first and second runner could break benchmark.
But notice
the last 4.
Notice the micro split 400 to 200 where Zoo Sensation's in traffic.
Yep.
It's losing momentum, and Craig's got Inhibitions at full pelt.
Yeah, sort of then, of course, I was probably, not that it didn't work out badly in terms of putting some money in the pocket, but the reality is I would have preferred the victory even more, because you're right, Ralphie, that loss of 0.7 versus the holding of the line of Inhibitions made a huge difference, because that last 200 metres, Zoo Sensation definitely had the wood on the winner.
Sydney looked like it's obviously a strong summer card with the Ingham and the Razor Sharp. How did Randwick play?
Yeah. I felt the track race pretty solid, Ralphie. Very, very much, in my view, in the G3 range, pretty much all day. Even the home straight was, well, Maybe the home straight, the last 200 metres was slightly off compared to what you usually get, to the tune of about 1 length, but it was still like on that bandwidth of that sort of G3, G4. Maybe the 400 metre point is usually, that's what we see. We usually see that was like 1.9 above average versus 1 length above average over the last 200 metres. So, yeah, but I still marked the track. I thought it was pretty good.
Terrific.
Overall. Yeah.
All right, if you want to get our Randwick review, you've got to be a Group 1 member. Our Group 1 member bonus today will be our coverage of Randwick. So if you want to become a member via my website, racetrackralphie.com.au, click through the links and you'll get the bonus podcast today. We are not here without our supporter members. We have no corporate bookmaker affiliation, so no members, no show. So we always like to give them a bit of a bonus. So once again, if you want to get our Randwick review, become a member and I will send that to you.